The Treaty of St. Louis was first signed in 1804 at Portage de Sioux, Missouri, stopping the white man invasion at the Mississippi River. Then, Western Ho! We kept pushing the natives further into the empty plains and then into the stinking desert. In the Lakota language, roughly translates to buffalo who sits down. Americans came to commonly refer to him as Sitting Bull. Born in 1830, Sitting Bull fought against a white invasion in the Dakota War of 1862. He joined Red Cloud's war against a white expansion and refused to surrender when Red Cloud did. Sitting Bull demonstrated his leadership in the Great Sioux War of 1876. Gold had been found in the Black Hills, sacred ground promised by the U.S. government again and again and again to the Sioux. In 1874, George Armstrong Custer led a military expedition to look for promising mining and fort sites. Sitting Bull did not attack that expedition. Once gold was found, the natives were ordered to give up hunting and move to the reservations. June 25, 1876. Custer's scouts discovered Sitting Bull's camp along the Little Bighorn River. Led by Crazy Horse, the natives had one last grand victory over the white man. Sitting Bull sat on a nearby hilltop, armed with a Winchester carbine and a .45 handgun, watching the entire slaughter. Custer and 220 of his men perished in what was the worst defeat ever suffered by the United States military at the hands of the Native Americans. The white people did not like that one bit and sent in many troops hardened by the Civil War with modern weapons and communications. Sitting Bull refused to submit and escaped with his people to Canada, where the tribe was welcomed with open arms by the Canadians. Only starvation and hunger and yearning for home, they eventually returned and surrendered. Sitting Bull surrendered on July 20, 1881. By 1883, his family was starving on the reservation. The U.S. government and railroad barons wanted him to speak at the Gold Spike ceremony for the completion of the Northern Pacific Railway, the death knell of the Plains, Native Americans, and the buffalo. Sitting Bull arrived surrounded by U.S. cavalry to be greeted by governors from every state the railway connected, ambassadors from Europe, the Secretary of State, and President Grant. Sitting Bull's speech had been written by a young Army officer who spoke Lakota. Everyone was shocked when Sitting Bull, fluent in English, gave his speech in Lakota. He said in Lakota, which only the single soldier could understand, "I hate all white people," he said. "You are thieves and liars. You have taken away our land and made us outcasts." He went on to describe all the atrocities that his nation had endured at the hands of the United States. He would stop periodically to smile, and the audience applauded enthusiastically, assuming he was welcoming them and complimenting them their great achievement. Sitting Bull would bow in return, then resume his scathing assessment of the white man's corruption and dishonesty. Only the panic-stricken Army officer who had helped Sitting Bull draft a speech could understand him, and he knew it was pointless to interrupt. Sitting Bull received a standing ovation at the end of his speech, white folk none the wiser. It did bring him to the attention of Buffalo Bill's Wild West. Sitting Bull made a great deal of money selling selfies performing with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, reenacting the Little Bighorn battle. He became very fond of and very close to Annie Oakley. Sitting Bull was famous for giving away all his wealth and gifts to the needy. He quickly tired of the showbiz life, finding it unfathomable that white people begged on the streets of large cities. Sitting Bull returned to the reservation just as a new spiritual movement was beginning among the natives. The ghost dance was a Paiute shaman prophecy with a little Mormonism thrown in, that by dancing and praying, the natives could chase away the white man and the buffalo would return. They believed Jesus was resurrected to lead the natives and chase off the white invasion. They would hold ghost dance circles, wearing sacred shirts they believed would stop the white man's bullets. The whites in charge of the reservations recognized the dangers of a resurrection cult and feared another native uprising. They decided to take Sitting Bull into custody to prevent any uprising. During his arrest, Sitting Bull was killed when his followers resisted. Pre-dawn, December 15, 1890, 43 native reservation police, themselves members of the Sioux tribe, who were dubbed Metal Tits because of the badges they wore, surrounded the house of Sitting Bull, led by Lieutenant Henry Bullhead. One of Sitting Bull's men raised his rifle and shot at Lieutenant Bullhead, who fired his revolver into Sitting Bull's chest. Another native officer, Red Tomahawk, shot Sitting Bull in the head. Killed were Sitting Bull, his brother Jumping Bull, and his son Crowfoot, who would vainly cry out, "My uncles, do not kill me, I do not wish to die," before being bludgeoned over the head and shot. The incident would later become known as the Battle in the Dark. 2 weeks later, on December 29, 1890, the Sioux of the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota were ordered to surrender all weapons by over 500 revenge-hungry members of the 7th Cavalry, still fuming about Little Bighorn 8 years earlier, and armed with the latest weapon of mass destruction, the Hotchkiss, an improved version of the U.S. Gatling gun, capable of firing over 60 rounds per minute with an accuracy of over 2,000 yards, against 350 half-starved and freezing Lakota. Less than half of them were male. They were mostly women and children. One deaf Lakota argued to keep his new expensive Winchester rifle. 2 soldiers grabbed him from behind and his gun went off, followed by a rain of shooting down unarmed Lakota. The women ran the children into a ravine to protect them, and the soldiers encircled and killed every one of them. Everyone was hunted down and killed. For days, the corpses lay in a blizzard. The Army hired workers to dig a mass grave. Over 300 Lakota lay dead in the snow. Army casualties numbered 25, most killed by friendly fire of the Hotchkisses. The 1890 campaign to exterminate the natives led to 31 U.S. Medals of Honor. 19 Medals of Honor went to the service at Wounded Knee. To this day, America's worst mass shooting. American Horse, it was an Oglala Lakota chief. He was 50 years old during the time of Wounded Knee. He lived until 1908. He was an eyewitness. There was a woman with an infant in her arms who was killed as she almost touched the flag of truce. A mother was shot down with her infant. The child, not knowing that its mother was dead, was still nursing it. The women, as they were fleeing with their babies, were killed together, shot right through the baby. And after all of them had been killed, a cry was made that all those who were not killed or wounded should come forth and they would be safe. Little boys came out of their places of refuge. And as soon as they came in sight, a number of soldiers surrounded them and butchered them there.